Hi, I'm Shelley and this is my vlog, The Willow Tree Green. I'm coming on today to give you a little update and to show you the most adorable thing I have ever made, ever. My little bookcase quilt top. I basically spent an entire day, so I think it probably took me 8 hours to complete this little thing, which is, I should probably have measured it and told you how big it is, but you can get a bit of a scale. So it is 26 inches by about 20 inches in total. So I took a standard bookcase quilt and just sort of sized it down. And yeah, I have added a few bits and pieces, like a tiny little mini cat block in here, which was really fun to make. I figured out how to create this um, uh, what's it called, flower vase thing. I have been watching a lot of different YouTube videos of people making various bits and pieces for their quilts, and I think actually in a Missouri Star quilt company tutorial for their bookcase quilt, um, Jenny does talk about making this type of block. So obviously I've sized it down quite considerably. And then with the flowers, I've just done some raw edge applique, which was very fun to do because I couldn't be bothered, or I was in the middle of doing other things. I had more books to do, so I didn't want to switch over my machine setup and put my free motion foot on. So I actually did that in tiny little steps on my regular foot with the feed dogs up and everything. So that took some doing. I'll take it off. I sized it down basically because it's just on the front of my mannequin here, which is obviously got boobs, so it distorts it a little bit. But I sized it down specifically because I wanted to extend my, or give my Elizabeth Bennet more of a quilt. So, I mean, you can see how small it is here. So at the moment, my little bookcase, which I just made up, is attached. So on the other side, we have got Darcy and Elizabeth here together. And as you can see, I sized down the books so that they are more in scale for Elizabeth. And I'm absolutely loving it because obviously, you know, from the story, Elizabeth is an avid reader. It's one of the plot points in the my favorite film, the 2005 version. So yeah, so here we are, and I finished Mr. Darcy. I made some mistakes on this one. This is actually, the man version is much more complicated to do than the female version because of the face. And on the actual pattern itself, he should have a neck, and his collar should stick up. So you should be able to see the two pieces of his collar sticking up. Um, you can see it on the back, not on the front. So he's kind of lost his neck. It's more like his collar is higher, which is typical for that era anyway. So I'm okay with it. So he's not perfect, and I also didn't have enough of a single color, so he's got a multicolored jacket as well. I'll put some pictures up of this so you can see it. Now my plan is to extend this further. So at the moment it's the 26 inches long by, or is it? Yeah, so it's about 40 inches wide by 26 long, roughly. And my plan is to extend it. So I went on Fancy Lad's Etsy shop again, and I bought a couple more of the characters. So I've now got Jane Bennet, and I also have Charles Bingley, another couple. So you buy them as a pair. So this is another pair that you get. And my intention is to hopefully create Charles and Jane, and I would put them above or below the bookcase, and then think of something that goes with either Jane or Charles and put it on the other side. I'm not sure what that would be yet. In my mind, the first thing I thought of was a carriage, because obviously part of the plot around their relationship is that Jane is sent to see Charles's sister on a horse rather than a carriage. So I was thinking I could put a carriage on the other side, but how I would make that out of material at this scale, I don't know, but it would be fun to try. So I'm in my bookshelf. I have never been so excited to receive plain fabric before, ever. When these two plain cottons turned up, I was so excited. The trouble with quilting is threads are everywhere all the time. I was literally so excited to get these two plain cottons that I could start on this quilt. That's why I literally spent all of Sunday just making this, and I'm so happy with how it turned out. I even did some embroidery. My machine, I've got a Burnett B77, and it's got some functionality that you can do lettering on it. So I actually did some lettering. So we've got birds, we've got dictionary. A funny story about dictionary: when I first did it, I had missed the R out, so it was spelled wrong. So I had to unpick it here and put it back in. And I was considering leaving it in there with dictionary spelled wrong because that's just funny. Um, I think that one there was Jane Eyre, but obviously the E ended up in the seam allowance, and I used some of the fancy stitches. And there you can see my raw edge applique on that. And then down, a lot of these I've used the selvage of fabric to create like the book names. And past my little tiny cat, which I was super impressed with myself for doing, I have also put in a couple of other books. So this was my first attempt at doing the lettering. That actually says Pride and Prejudice. It's not very easily readable, and obviously I couldn't line it up because I couldn't, although I figured out since how. I could have put this all as one stitch for it to put through, but there wouldn't have been gaps between the words. And then further down here, I have got Little Women and Emma, which again, you can see this is what I meant with the Little Women, there's no gap between the words. That's when you program my Burnett with these in there. There were a couple of areas where I was unhappy with how it was looking, so I put some pieces on top. So this book, for instance, where it was leaning over, the bottom, it looked like it was floating a little bit. So I added a couple of pieces on the bottom and just put some stitches over the top to put that in there. I did some stitching on the top of that book as well. And used, like I said, I've used the selvage of some of the fabrics as the book names. But yeah, I'm so happy with how this came out. I really would like to make a full size version now, which is obviously just sizing up the blocks. But this was a really good scrap buster as well. So this is quite possibly the cutest thing I've ever made. And yeah, I'm so happy with how it's turned out. And then of course I've got these blocks, which I do love. I think they're fantastic. They kind of remind me a little bit of Minecraft characters. But I really am happy how they came out. So like I said, I've got Charles, who looks like that. My daughter said he was giving off Nutcracker vibes, but obviously you choose your own colours, so you don't have to do him in red and those sort of colours. So I'll have to see what I've got available and do his jacket, etc. in those colours. And I would probably make him blonder because the 2005 version. And then we've got Jane there in white. And again, I would probably choose a different colour for her dress. Her hair, I'm not sure I am that keen on that different colour at the front there. So I'd probably make that blend in more. But so yeah, so I'll put these two together and then have to think about what I pair them with. But yeah, so there it is again. There's Elizabeth with her bookshelf. I'm so happy with how this turned out. And it was really good fun to do. I was trying to be clever here and to make it look more like a bookshelf, but I couldn't figure it out. I did sort of some, not quite snowballs, but edges there to try and figure that out. But you live and you learn. So yeah, so I'm really happy with how this turned out. Like I said, I will put a picture up, and I will continue to work on this and create those other two characters. But at the moment, it's even just like this. It's kind of like a giant pillow that could be double-sided because they match so perfectly. And honestly, I'm not very good at measuring, so that was almost entirely accidental that it worked out so well. But the thread thing, I was watching someone recently, and they were one of the non-sewing items that they keep in their sewing area was a lint roller, and I actually think that is such a smart idea. I definitely could do with a lint roller. yesterday when I was sewing this, I had I think one of my drews on, and I was literally covered, and my dog lay down on the floor by the side of me, and he got up at one point and went and led on the sofa by my husband, and I heard my husband say, "You are covered in fluff." So a lint roller by the side of you sounds like a good idea. So anyway, I'm not too bothered by his multicolored jacket. I think it sort of it looks okay the way I've done it. It's not perfect, but it was really quite a struggle to do these smaller pieces in here, but I still think it looks pretty good. And I made his, this is a watch from the pattern. I made that, it matches her dress. So I was wondering whether I could make a book to put in her hands, because I have seen you can make an open book, and I could probably apply that on, or flowers like I was saying. But so yeah, so this is a little update on my what I'm calling Pride and Prejudice quilt, um, and my little tiny bookcase, which I'm just so pleased with, and hope that was interesting for you. I will no doubt update when I've done more of the rest and what I decide to do to go with Jane and Bingley. Perhaps if you've got any ideas, you can give me a clue. What do you think? What goes with Jane and Bingley? Jane isn't a reader; she doesn't do that kind of thing. I really do think a carriage, but I'm not, just don't know how to do a carriage. I was thinking about it last night while I was trying to go to sleep. So anyway, any ideas, let me know. One other thing that I bought from Fancy Lad recently, which is completely unrelated, but I was on the website and I think she was having a sale at the time, is she's got a set of characters for Henry VIII and his 6 wives, and I saw Anne Boleyn, and isn't that dress just so pretty? Obviously, I would choose different colours, but of all of the wives, I just thought hers was the most pretty, and it would be in the same scale as these two, so it would be that sort of size. And even if I have her on her own and I just turn her into a very large pillow, I just think that would be so nice. So I don't know if I'm going to do her next or Charles and Bingley, because I'm really enjoying just looking at my little tiny bookshelf right now. So I'm so happy with how that turned out. Kind of chuffed with myself, for doing it. Some of the pieces I was desperate to put in a vase, and so figuring out how to size that down, and then my little cat as well. So yeah, and even the books, because one of the things I don't like with some of the book blocks that I've seen is the bottom, when books are leaning over like that, the bottom is flat because it's sewn straight into the bottom. So because that's the easier way to do it, obviously. And I didn't want that. I wanted my books to look like they were leaning properly. So I added little triangles of the background fabric at the bottom of the books to make them look more like they were leaning. And I think that's much more effective. It's much more realistic. But again, I also used all similar fabrics from the same fabric quarter set that I had made Elizabeth's dress out of, these bits. So the colour scheme matches, apart from my flowers, obviously, which are very bright, and my cat, which is in leopard print. So anyway, hope you enjoyed that little update. Really enjoying making the quilting stuff, taking a break from clothes sewing, which I just don't feel like at this time of year. And I have so many clothes I don't need anymore. So yeah, I hope that was interesting. If you did enjoy it, please do give me a thumbs up and a subscribe. And if you haven't already, and leave me a comment, let me know what you think of my little bookcase down below. If you've got any ideas for a matching panel to go with Jane and Bingley, I really appreciate the advice. So if you've taken the time out of Vlogmas to take a look at my little video, I really appreciate it. I'm really enjoying everybody's Vlogmas videos, and I shall catch you next time. Bye. Well, happy Christmas and New Year, because I think my next video will probably be after those. Yeah. Anyway, bye.